Ladies and gentlemen, I've finally done it. I have completed my Dark Magician Girl collection. This is probably, if not, and I'll say why in the video, the rarest Dark Magician Girl collection in the entire world. I know it's kind of crazy. It's like, Rhyme, do you have all of them? The answer is no. So it's like, how is that the most rarest? I'll get to that when I get to that. But for now, I want to kind of go down the list of these cards, give you some stories with it. If you guys have any questions or if you guys have any specific cards that you collect, let me know in the comment section below. This is a collector space for all of us, and I wanted to share this because I'm super excited about it. So, let's go down the list. So I have a batch here, and I got more over here right next to me. And we'll get to the ones next to me once we go through this batch. So first and foremost, we got Maggie Magician Gal. This card never came out in the States. Takahashi refused to censor it. Good, he's standing his business, love that. And this card's actually kind of cool. It's like a combination of Change of Heart and I believe Monster Reborn. I might be wrong with that one, but I know one of the effects was you can like take control of monsters, so it's actually kind of cool. And obviously it was supposed to be like the next step up of Dark Magician Girl. What's funny is, this is originally supposed to just be an alternate art version of Dark Magician Girl, like how we had with Dark Magician, but then they made it a whole new card and everything. Unfortunately, we never got it out here in the West, and the art is just beautiful. As you can see, we got the classic Takahashi art without the border, the shadow border. If you notice my Yu-Gi-Oh cards, there's always like a little border around these. But if it's drawn by Takahashi, there's never a border. I actually found it out more recently, and we'll get to that again when we get to the other Takahashi arts in this batch. So yeah, I don't know what the pop is on this card because V just loves to do this thing where they grade cards and then don't have a pop report on it, which is kind of weird because that's obviously like the biggest deal with grades. Next, of course, the grades themselves. You know, you grade the card and then you can see how many of these exist in the world. So it's kind of weird they don't do that on every single card. And if B just happens to see this one day, I hope that you guys automatically start recording pops for every card because it's kind of weird that you don't. Next down the line, we have, this is all out of order by the way, just because I didn't organize it. I literally grabbed all this morning and I sat down to record this. Next, we got the Ultimate Rare Dungeon Dice promo from 2001. There was 3 different arts and 3 different rarities for this, which we'll get to again later in this when we get to my more favorite cards. This is the Ultimate Rare. This is the iconic art from Dark Magician Girl that came out originally in Magician's Force, as you can see here. And this actually was the second release, because technically the G3 Dark Magician Girl came out in 2000. But still, this art is cool, and I actually grabbed this for a decent price. The thing about Ultimate Rares is they always have these weird chipping issues, and the quality control for all the Dungeon Dice cards was not that great. This is, I think, the best quality in BGS that exists with this. I think it's maybe like Pop 1 in PSA, but I mean, this is as PSA 10 as it gets. If I was to cross this, they would probably give it a 10, but again, I like the BGS cases a bit more because it feels more protective of the card, because, you know, you got the actual case and you got the sleeve inside, which sometimes is a hindrance, because, like, the sleeve can kind of, like, not make the card pop as much, but in this one specifically, it looks great. So yeah, there's that. On to the next one. We got the Blu-ray promo from the 20th anniversary that came out 5 years ago now. Wow, well, 4 technically. This was part of a Blu-ray. I actually was lucky enough to pre-order this Blu-ray before it dropped, and I paid, I think, 50 bucks. And this card's expensive right now. I think it's like a $700 card. You can get it for like 800, 900, maybe 1,000 for PSA 10. But again, we have the very first Starlight Dark Magician Girl, and one day we're gonna get this in English. I know that Konami just sitting on it, and they're ready to drop it in case of emergency. And you better believe we gonna be there when that card comes out. I actually have 2 of these, but I'll get to the second one when I actually get to the actual card. This is not Dark Magician Girl, but I want to kind of toss out that Sound Magician deserves better. I want to kind of toss out as well. There it is. This is the second copy out. I bought this actually for 600 bucks like 2 years ago, because I really like the grades. So it's got 10, 10, 10, and then 9. I'm like, oh, that could possibly be the very first 10. Because I believe, I don't know if this is it has a pop report again, because BGS is weird. Like, Beckett, yeah, I gotta stop doing that. But I did buy this initially with the idea that I can cross it, but unfortunately, yeah, that's pretty blatant there. That's not gonna be a 10. So as you guys know, to be a 10, you need 10, 10, 10, and 9, 5. It's still pretty good quality, and I mean, it was a decent price. All right, keep it going. This is the first Dark Magician Girl that graded a 10 in Beckett. Wait, no, it's not. Just kidding. It was like the third. There was, I believe there's like 2 Magician's Force first editions. There's 0 for Magician's Force Unlimited. But this is probably like the third. And I remember I got 3 of these and I sent them all in, and all 3 came back 10s, including one that became the very first black label for any Dark Magician card to ever come out. I love this art because this is straight from the manga. I feel like a lot of people didn't like the manga variations of the 3 cards that much that came out in these tints. We had Blue Eyes, Red Eyes, and Dark Magician Girl. But I was a big fan, and I liked the pull rates too. They felt kind of special. They weren't like super rare, but it felt hyped to see them pop up amongst the cards. So I don't know. I think this is super underrated. Like I said, I have one more of these. I traded my second away to one of my friends. Shout out to Agent DMG, because he won a one, and there was a total of 3 at the time. Then we got more of the Dungeon Dice promos, as I mentioned. This is the other art. Again, Ultimate Rare once again. I actually bought this in Japan in person. And again, the issue with these is just the quality control was so bad with Ultimate Rares because they have like weird shipping issues and stuff like that. I didn't think this is going to be a 10, but I figured at least a 9. Maybe a 9.5 with Beckett. I might try to cross it to Beckett to see if we can get a 9.5, but love the art, and I love how Ultimate Rares just pop so much as opposed to all the other rarities. Then we got probably one of my least favorites in the last couple years. This came with the Dragon Ball. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel game that came out a couple years ago in 2021. I remember I pre-ordered 3 of these expecting them to like blow up. And I remember when I got them, they were all like damaged. Like, ooh, these are going to be, you know, really hard to get as 10s. And then they all came out 10s. I think this is the pop for this is like a bajillion. But it's still pretty cool. You know, you get the full art version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. I feel like we should get in the main game. So yeah. Then there is the PSA variant of this as well. Like I said, the pop of this is crazy. This is probably like one of the more cheaper cards. But again, I appreciate the manga art. I'm a big fan of it. I also feel like I'm the only person that likes it. There's the Japanese version. Ironically, the Japanese version was very hard to pull. Unlike the English variant, which was still pretty rare, these were like one in like a bajillion boxes or something like that. And then you either had a chance of getting, like I said, Red Eyes, Blue Eyes, and Dark Magician Girl. I actually pulled this, if I remember correctly. This is the one I pulled and graded. And anytime you pull your own card and it grades a 10, it's such a more special feeling, that makes sense. On to the next batch. Then we got the more recent Pharaoh Rare. I think this is a super underrated card. I love the hollow pattern on this the most. It's very, very unique. It really pops. And on top of that, this had the rarity. The thing about TCGs nowadays, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh!, I feel like rarity is kind of a big deal sometimes because, like, if a card is easy to pull, you probably don't care as much. For example, like the 10 Dark Magician Girl. This set was crazy. Not only were the Pharaoh Rares not guaranteed per boxes, there were so many of them. I don't think I pulled the dark. No. I think I pulled one Dark Magician Girl later. It was off camera, but it took a lot of boxes to get there. And then with this, I ended up buying, I want to say like 3 of them, and even then they were super expensive. And this originally was, I sent this to BGS, and BGS gave like a 9. I felt that was very, very strict because the card looks great. And then I crossed it to PSA, and they gave it a 10. It was 10 worthy. This card is great, but there's a better one, which I'll get to later in the video. Pharaoh Rares are underrated in my opinion. Then we got the recently obtained 25th anniversary 10 Dark Magician Girl from 2001, I want to say. This was the World Championship attendance card, and I actually, when I was in Japan last month, I went from shop to shop to shop. Big shout out to, I think it was Fuku TCG, and I found the perfect one. I remember I literally went through so many of these, like trying to find like the right one, on top of like one that was a good price. I think I paid like $700 for this. It also came with the Magic Cylinder as well. And this one looks so good. I'm like, this might be BGS worthy. If not, I'll send it to PSA. But yeah, BGS 10. I believe this is the first one. Of course, there's no pop report yet. I did reach out to BGS and ask them to make a pop report for this, and they said they're going to. Might just take some time. But I think everybody sent these to PSA instead of BGS because it's easier to get a 10. But anytime BGS gives a Yu-Gi-Oh card a 10, it's so much more special to me because they never do that. Most Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which you'll see here in a second, BGS are always like 9.5s at best because of the corners. And again, this was a rare one where I was like, this looks way too good to send anyone else. This is an underrated art. I feel like a lot of people didn't like the 10 art as much as the original when it was released. But again, I am a big fan. I like it a lot. It's also a little bit different. And I've seen this art style enough times where I'm like, I appreciate this one. If you're wondering, the Magic Cylinder came back at 9.5. But it was like very, very close. It was like 10, 10, 10, 9. And it had like one tiny ding in the corner, similar to what we saw with the Dark Magician Girl from the Blu-ray that I showed you, the 9.5. So it's not going to cross to a 10, but it was very, very close. All right, now we have the OG. This is a 9.5 quad. This, I think, is the best one you can get. And the reason why I say that is because I like to consider qualities in Beckett based on the subgrades, obviously. If there's a 9, it's always a step back. So you could have a 10, 10, 10, 9.5, and 9. making this better. Technically, it's cool to have 2 10 subgrades, but you have that 9 that's just forever plaguing you. This one looks great, actually. I try to have this crossed. They still think it's a solid 9.5, but this is the only one where it has 9.5 quad or higher in the entire pop report for unlimited. Like I said, there's one other one where it's 10.10, 9, 9.5, and you might like that better. But again, for me, I feel like if the minimum is 9.5 all around, I think it's a lot better, and it looks great. This is the one obviously that we all grew up with. If you grew up with the game from 2003, Magician's Force. I think I got this for like $400. No. It was $600 like 2 years ago. And I remember I tried to buy the other one that was the 10.10 9.95, and I remember they wanted like $2 grand for it, and I'm like, you're not going to get that. And I remember actually that card ended up selling for like I want to say like $600 as well recently. So value's still about the same, but again, I like the fact that this is probably one of the more better graded ones just because it's got a 9.5 quad all around. On to the next one. This is probably one of the more underrated ones. This is Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight first edition from Dragon of Legend. I actually bought this from Ruxin. What I like about this is how the secret rare foil is only on like certain parts of the card, and I didn't know that when I bought it initially. Like because you know you can look at a card in the picture and the video, and it doesn't know justice, but this is actually fire. I think the pop is fairly low as well, not something crazy, but I just love how we have Timaeus in the back next to her, and then we got the iconic armored version of Dark Magician Girl. I like this card a lot. It's definitely a underrated version. Going on to the next one, this is the prismatic rarity for the Dungeon Dice promo. This was originally a 9.5 quad in Beckett, and I got to cross the PSA. I sent both in, and they crossed one. Actually, here's the other one that they didn't cross. As you can see, this one had a 9. I think as long as PSA sees a 9 on any of the subgrades, they won't cross it. But this one was like a 10-10, 9.5, 9.5, so it was like very, very close. So they're like, yeah, we'll cross it into a 10. It looks flawless, by the way. I don't know why Beckett deemed it as a 9.5. I feel like if I had a review, they'll probably bump it up. But I just love how much the secret rare sparkles in this. Of course, this is the other art in prismatic as well. Kind of can't see it because there's a bunch of like walls. You know, you got the perfect guard, and then of course you got the Beckett not foil, but the Beckett protection in the middle. So it kind of like takes away from the art of the card. And finally, we have the ghost rare. I really wish they would have printed this with the older print. The ghost rares recently are not as good looking just because it's a bit like fog gear, if that makes sense. The OG ghost rare foil looks so good. It just pops so much. It's just so 3D. You can see it from anywhere in the room. But with this, you gotta like literally squint to see the actual 3D effect, and I'm not a big fan of it. But again, I actually am a big fan of ghost rares in general, and I remember when this came out, I hunted for this. And they all kept coming back 8s and 9s and 8s and 9s. And then one day, I bought 3 from my homie Tyree, who helped me hunt them down. And then all 3 came back 10s. Literally, all 3 came back 10s. It was crazy. I mean, this one deserved it too. It looked very, very good. A lot of them had like the scuffing issues in the back, and then like printing errors in the front, horrible centering, stuff like that. But the 3 that I got that day and sent to the PSA all came back 10s. They were so good that I gave Tyree one. I'm like, yo, you can keep one as a thank you for helping me find this. Right, now that we got the lesser, cooler ones out of the way, let's get to the good ones. Oh, also, I gotta probably say, honorable mention, this is a Crystal Dark Magician Girl that Konami actually sent me a couple years ago. It's cool, it lights up, you see it in my background, my videos sometimes. And this is like, I think they made like 50 of them or something like that. It's really dope. It's literally just like a little 3D card. I'm not a big crystal card guy, which I know a lot of people do collect and get into, but I just like it in my background. And again, it's kind of cool. And only like 50 of these exist, and I got a chance to get one of these. Woo! Here we go. And right off the bat, you can see them. You can see the black labels on top. These are easily my favorite ones I have in the collection. And again, this is why I said the rarest, because these are all pop 1, except for this one, of course. This is the most recent one I obtained. I finally got my hands on a PSA 10. By the way, 8 million sir too. Much love to Greater Gem for selling me this. I paid a lot of money for this. I paid 9 grand for this. I've been trying to get this for the longest, but like a lot of sellers over the course of the past like 3 years were like, yeah, I want 15 grand, I want 20 grand. They make up all these numbers. I'm like, when did this ever sell for this much? And something I hate about the collectible world is people will like refer to recent sales and be like, well, this sold for this much recently, so the price is that much. Okay, but like if a card doesn't sell for that much, is it actually worth that much? I own this card. I don't think it's a $15,000 card. It's not $20,000 card. I would say more closer to like the 9-10 range, because that's where it's consistently sold around that time. But yeah, on top of that, you gotta look at all the recent sales, or I guess the sales over the course of the past like decade really, where 10s sold but they look like 8s, you know, or we saw some 9s sell but they're actually 10s. It's so hard to like actually look at the value of a card And I hate that part of the collectible game, but I get it at the end of the day. But yeah, I finally have a 10, and it looks gorgeous, and we got a hair stuck in the actual thing. Can you not? There, hair removed. But yeah, and also look how good this looks. This is a good 10. I think that was also the thing I was looking for, is I wanted to buy an actual 10 that was a 10, not because it just says 10. I seen one sell on eBay recently where the name was all scratched up. I'm like, how did I get a 10? That should be like a 7. But yeah, this is great. All right, now to the rarest ones. Literally, as you can see right there, based off of the labels alone. Let's start with the more, I guess, lesser rare one. We have a BGS 10 Prismatic Dungeon Dice. This is a Pop 2. This is, again, I went to Japan in April of this year, and I literally went from shop to shop to shop, from Tokyo to Osaka, until I found the right one. I bought like several of these, and I finally found one at a shop where it had all the main things covered. There was no whitening around the edges. The corners were great. There's no scratches. And I'm like, if one's gonna hit a 10 with BGS, it's this one. I think even in PSA, this is still a pretty low pop. But for BGS, who actually looks at every single like crevice possible, Pop 2. And I got one of them. This one is crazy. This is probably one of my favorite arts. But these two especially, are insane. The first, well, I guess I was gonna show you this one first. This is the first Black Label Dark Magician Girl to ever exist. Out of all the cards released since 1999, I guess, 2000, this is the first Black Label Dark Magician Girl. And of course, it was the 10 art. And I remember, like I said, I got 3 of these. Beckett gave them all 10s, and I'm like, this is insane. Let me send the best one to see what happens. And they crossed it. I am never getting rid of this card. I don't care if people value this card as $5 or $1 million. I'm never getting rid of this card. This card is so fire. Like I said, as someone who also loves the manga art, it looks too good. And again, I feel like it's kind of iconic because it's also the very first Black Label to exist. But we're not just gonna stop there. We have to do it again. We have the Mama, the Magnificent Mavens, Pharaoh Rare, Dark Magician Girl, Black Label, also Pop 1. I think in BGS 10 period, this is a Pop 3. Because again, the thing about Beckett and why they're so harsh with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, it's always the corners. It's always the corners because they're so sharp and something always goes wrong. This one I bought from my homie Agent DMG, and I was like, this looks way too good. So I had it sent in to get reviewed. I think the first time they said no, but it was like, they gave me no error report, so I'm like, that's weird. And I sent it in again, and then they passed it the second time, because again, there was nothing wrong with it. So it's like, I get that these grading companies sometimes will pop control stuff, but like, you can't keep denying it when there's no issues with it. And if there's an issue with it, tell me what's wrong with it, because they always give it like this little slip that says what's wrong with it and why they gave certain grades and subgrades the grades that they got. This one had nothing wrong with it. So yeah, this one is also never leave my collection. The only 2 Black Label Dark Magician Girls that exist in the world, I got them. So yeah, what do you think is the best one out of all of these? I feel like a lot of people by default will say this one because this is probably the most valuable one and most iconic because of the time, 2003, and it was technically the first one released in English. And there's also the G3 Dark Magician Girl that came out in Japan. That was part of like the original tournament and stuff like that. I think they printed like 300 of them, but that card is expensive. I saw it in Japan and they wanted like 40 grand for it. I'm like, you know what? I'll settle for my Black Labels and my Dungeon Dice, and of course, my Magician's Force, and just call it a day. So yeah. Right, I'm probably gonna do more of these because I have a bunch of other specific cards under the collection, like Blue Eyes and Dark Magician, stuff like that. But for now, I wanted to show this off because I just completed this recently, and I'm super excited about it. So let me know your thoughts, what's your favorite, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next upload. Peace.